Hello everybody, Michael here with Burke's Nature. Today's virtual program is going to be about animals that live in the waters of Angelica Park, specifically talking about wetlands. So we're going to go through a PowerPoint with a lot of pictures, talk about the different animals that you might find at the wetlands, especially at Angelica Park. And then I have some footage of the wetlands of Angelica Park that will be at the end of the video for you to watch if you would like. So, the nature place at Angelica Park, here's a picture of our building. We just built it. 2018 it was completed. It's the nature place at Angelica Park. It's a nature center. So there's a picture of the center, and surrounding the center are wetlands. So here is a map that shows the wetlands at Angelica Park surrounded by the blue lines. There are some other areas that could be considered wetlands. They tend to be a little wetter, especially up in this area is also wet, but these are the two main wetlands. So this is wetland 1 and this is wetland 2. So if you go to the park, you'll be able to see these two wetlands and explore them. There's even a boardwalk that goes through the center of wetland number 1 over here that you can walk on to go through the wetland. So some animals that we maybe find living at Angelica Park, aka by our streams, the pond, the river, and the wetlands. We're going to go over them now. This is not by any means a fully encompassed list, but some good common animals that you may find. So to start, we'll start with amphibians. So the green frog is very, very common here at Angelica Park. Also the northern leopard frog when it comes to amphibians. The pickerel frog is another one common in wetland areas, especially around Angelica Park. The bullfrogs, they're really common by the pond in Angelica Park. Red-spotted newts, not going to be as easy for you to find, but they are there. So now we're going to move on to fish. So some of the fish that we may see. Of course, minnows, rainbow trout, if you're a fisherman, so definitely going to find rainbow trout in the stream in Angelica Park. Brook trout, which are the only native species of trout to Pennsylvania. Angelica also has brown trout, which right now there are naturally reproducing brown trout in Angelica Creek. So originally they were stocked because they're not native, but the water quality in Angelica has been improved so much that now the brown trout are even reproducing. Sunfish, of course, very common in our pond. Largemouth bass, also very common in our pond. So now we're going to move on to reptiles. So some of the reptiles you may see in wetland areas are the spotted turtle and the snapping turtle. We have a few snapping turtles at Angelica. If you go to our social media, we just posted videos of one of the mothers was exploring the park looking for a spot to lay her eggs. So snapping turtle is very common at Angelica Park. Eastern painted turtle. These are the ones that you see sitting on logs a lot. So if you were to go on a kayak trip down the Schuylkill or the Delaware or anything like that, there's a good chance you'll see eastern painted turtles just sitting on a log. Garter snakes, very, very common at Angelica Park, harmless. Northern brown snake, also harmless, but common in wetland areas. The water snake, not venomous. A lot of people tend to confuse these with copperheads, which are one of the only venomous snakes in Berks County, but it is not venomous. The northern water snake is not a water moccasin. It's not a copperhead. They can look pretty close to copperhead, so I'm not suggesting you try to catch one, but that being said, water snakes are not venomous. The queen snake, again, not venomous. Going back to the snakes, now this only works in Berks County, or Pennsylvania-ish. And if somebody lets go a snake that's not native, this wouldn't work. But for the native snakes of Berks County, if it's a round eye, it's non-venomous. If it's the slit snake eye, they can be venomous. Now again, you can't use that as a rule of thumb because somebody might have let go a non-native snake that is venomous with round eyes. So you don't want to go touching snakes just because of that. But generally, you're safe in Berks County if they have round eyes. So now we're going to go on to mollusks, crustaceans, and insects. So basically bugs and crayfish. So freshwater clams, very common. There's a lot of invasive zebra mussels, very small things that look like clams or mussels. They're freshwater and they're invasive and they reproduce very crazily. So why freshwater clams are good, zebra mussels are something that's invasive, and I highly recommend you take a minute and Google zebra mussels so that you know what they look like. Of course, crayfish, again, very common in Angelica, but just like every other species, our native crayfish are being outcompeted by the rusty crayfish. They're bigger, they're more aggressive, they are not meant to be here, they were brought in by accident, and now they are taking over our waterways. So crayfish are great for the environment. However, we have to be careful because the rusty crayfish, just like the zebra mussel, is moving in and taking over our native species. Whirlweed beetle's another one. Water strider, these are the ones that you see on top of the water. This one actually has prey in its mouth. Now we're going to move on to insects, and these are called macroinvertebrates. So they're invertebrates, no backbone. Macro meaning they're large enough to see. But these are really important to somebody like me who works at a nature center and deals with water quality. Not only are these insects the basis for the food chain, and without them there would be no trout to fish for, they are good indicators of biological health. So there's a test that you can do to test water quality. It's called the EPT test. So you can go into a creek and you can flip over rocks and look for things called Ephemeroptera, Plecoptera, and Trichoptera, which is mayflies, stoneflies, and caddisflies. If you find these three insects in abundance, not just of one species, but a lot of different species, and a lot of numbers, that means the water is very healthy because these guys tend to be sensitive to pollution. So here we have the mayfly, Ephemeroptera, and this guy is going to turn into that when it's an adult. So they live a couple years underwater like that, and then they hatch into the mayfly. So that's the E in the EPT test. Stoneflies, this is the Plecoptera, so the P in the EPT test. And a stonefly, when it gets older, will turn into that. And again, these are really important biological indicators. This is a caddisfly larva. This is the T, Trichoptera. So you can see it's living in a little case that it made for itself. So on the right side of the picture is its head and its legs. And on the left side, that case that looks like a bunch of pebbles glued together is actually the caddisfly uses its saliva and sticks rocks, grass, leaves, all different types of material together to live in, and then glues it to a rock. There's also some that are free-swimming, net-spinning caddisflies, so they spin a web almost, or a net, almost like a spider. So if you go in and you can find these three different types, that will indicate clean water. Here is an adult version of the caddisfly. Helgramites, these are still macroinvertebrates, but these are a little more tolerant of pollution, so they're not as important biological indicators, but they're still very important for stream health and for the life that lives in it, the wetland and stream health. So this is a helgramite, and that will turn into a dobsonfly. We also have dragonfly larvae. Dragonflies are really cool as babies. They live their lives underwater, and they have a jaw that kind of comes out, almost like if you ever seen the movie Alien. So they come out and they grab their prey, and when they're scared, they swallow a lot of water, and then they shoot it out their back end. So they're basically when they get scared or need to get away, they fart out a jet of water, which scoots them away from the predator that is trying to attack them. So they're probably my favorite macroinvertebrate or favorite baby insect that lives in the water. Kids also love to learn about them because of their cool jaw and escape method. This is, of course, what they look like when they get older. A lot of people get dragonflies and damselflies confused. This is a dragonfly because it has a thicker bottom end. A damselfly would have a real thin bottom end, but the wings and head still look kind of the same. Here's the damselfly larva, and then here's the adult. So you can see how much thinner the body is. So thick bottom end on a dragonfly, thin bottom end on a damselfly. These are great predators. They're really good for wetlands, and they're very, very common at Angelica Park's wetland. So these only represent a small sampling of all the different types of animals that you can find in wetlands. We could have gone over birds, mammals. We didn't even touch on them, not to mention there's hundreds of other types of reptiles, amphibians, fish, and bugs that you can find at the wetlands. So I highly recommend that during one of these days when it's nice out, you take a trip to Angelica Park. It's a beautiful hike. It's a very easy, flat trail system around the wetlands. It's beautiful, and there's a lot to see. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at one of our future programs. Thank you. So when here at Angelica Park, over there we have wetland number 1. The water travels through all those cattails, ends up in our pond, and then from our pond, if you keep going to behind the building, wetland number 2 is over there, and this is between Angelica Creek, and then if you follow that all the way down, you'll end up at the Schuylkill. So this whole park was built as a buffer for stormwater and pollution coming from upstream in the Kenhurst area and up, going all the way down to the Schuylkill. Everything that you're looking at used to be a lake. So this used to be called Angelica Lake. Back in the 1800s, it was dammed up for ice production. Throughout the years, it's gone through some changes. Then it became a recreational lake for the city of Reading. Residents of the city of Reading, they used to come and get on paddle boats. You could ice skate in the winter, I was told. So this all used to be a lake. And then around 2000, a storm came and broke the dam and drained the lake. When that happened, it filled the Schuylkill with pollution that had been building up inside of the lake into the Schuylkill. So organizations and government agencies came together to make what you now see of Angelica Park. So Angelica Creek runs along the backside, and some of that water gets funneled through these wetlands, and these wetlands are like a natural sponge and filter. So not only do they soak up excess stormwater and prevent flooding up and downstream, but they can also suck up and help clean the pollution that is in the water and makes it cleaner. So it's kind of like a natural water treatment plant. And that's all because it was put back to its natural wetland habitat. So here we are at the boardwalk down at the Nature Place, which is a raised platform that will take you directly through a wetland. So here you can see the cattails and other plants that are growing in the wetlands. You can hear all the different birds. Here we have a close-up of a cattail.
Look at all those cattails. Hopefully you can see the water back there. That is not a creek or a stream or a river or a pond. That is just a piece of the wetland. I hope you enjoyed our presentation on wetlands. Don't forget to come out to Angelica Park or the Nature Place and take a hike through the wetlands. It's a great place to hike. There's lots of wildlife. It's beautiful. It's an easy hike, so no matter your skill in hiking, it's a great place to come and start. Again, thank you. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, and I hope to see you at one of our future programs. Thank you.